But it's a true honor to be here in Mississauga for time. What a thrill. And to be here on a day where we have the Minister of Veterans Affairs Commendation Awards, where we recognize the contributions of 13 outstanding Canadians who have worked day in, day out, showing care, compassion, respect to veterans who have bravely defended our nation, who have stood up the task of going about their business, doing the heavy lifting this government asks to keep us living in peace and security. I've now been the Minister of Veterans Affairs for 10 months. And although my Prime Minister has given me an aggressive mandate to do things better for veterans and their families, and we're working very hard on accomplishing many of those tasks, I know our government and our department cannot do it alone. We need Canadians like those in this room to roll up their sleeves and help our veterans. And today is the day we recognize 13 of you for that outstanding work. The Minister of Veterans Affairs Commendation Award was established in 2001 by our Governor General. It has been presented every year in communities across Canada to the bravest, the boldest, those who continue to work in their communities to help those who have kept this country safe. I know here today we have recipients from the age of 14 to 93 who have done great things in their community, from community recognition through commemoration, through helping the homeless on a day-to-day basis out there on the streets, finding veterans, asking them what their needs are, getting them in contact with Veterans Affairs, getting them the help they need where and when they need it. We have people who have worked overseas who have taken commemoration back to Italy to represent Canada and to commemorate our hard work that we have done as citizens. I know we have many veterans in this room who, even though long after their service is over, they continue to work for their fellow men and women who have served in the military. It's truly a thrill to be here, to recognize your accomplishments. We're going to hear more about each and every one of you as we go through the list and your accomplishments, but I can tell you on behalf of the Prime Minister and in fact our entire government, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you do each and every day. I'd like to close by saying that I've lived in peace and security since I was born in this great country in 1969. And it's because of men and women who have partaken in events like from Vimy Ridge through Juno Beach, through the Korean conflict, to the peacekeeping missions, to the Gulf War, to our mission in Afghanistan, to our current efforts in the Middle East. This is not easy, what we ask our men and women to do, to stand up for security, and it's important when they come back that they're treated with care, compassion, and respect. And I know that each and every one of you in this room, and in particular the 13 recipients here today, have done that. I'm so proud to be here. Kid from Calgary and Mississauga. What could be finer, and with all you great Canadians. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hehr and MP Algebra. We will now proceed with the presentations. I will briefly introduce each recipient one at a time. During your introduction, you will be escorted by our beautiful staff member, Sky Purdy, who will escort you to join the minister in front of the banners. And for the presentation of your commendation, official photos will be taken during the presentation. Recipients will then be returned to their table, and we will hold your framed certificate for you during the meal, so you don't have to hold on to it. After the final presentations, we will coordinate a group photo with the minister, as well as photos with recipients and their families, should you wish it. At that time, you will be able to take your own photos. Full citations of each recipient is available in the program that we have laid out for you on your table. Our very first recipient of the day from Ayr, Ontario is Miss Robin Bull. Miss Robin Bull is part of a family with long military history. Her interest in military history has led her to become involved in several military-related activities. She is a member of the Civil War Association, which is involved with reenactments of the war's famous battles. She also played a part in the reenactment of War of 1812, something she took great pride in. Ms. Bull has been an associate member of the Canadian Airborne Forces Association Branch No. 4 for the last 6 years. For the past 10 years, Ms. Bull has volunteered her time selling poppies in the lead-up to Remembrance Day. Ms. Bull has also been involved, along with her partner, in collecting and delivering memorabilia to the Museum of Nervesa, Italy, for the Canadian display area. For 10 years, Ms. Bull has also assisted her partner with the technological side of his presentations and never hesitates to talk with students about Canada's military past. Oops. Our next, congratulations, Mrs. Bull. Our next recipient is Mr. Jack Edward Callowhill from Stoney Creek. Mr. Callowhill is a veteran of the Second World War, where he served with the 1st Special Service Force. He became involved with the 1st Special Service Force Association and at its inception and has kept meticulous records for the association for years. He has also maintained contact with the association's veterans, especially throughout Canada. For the past 20 years, Mr. Callowhill has represented the FSSFA at regular meetings of the National Council of Veterans Association. For the last decade, Mr. Callowhill has also volunteered at Remembrance Day ceremonies, speaking to students, teachers, and parents. Mr. Callowhill was instrumental in ensuring the inclusion of Canadian Armed Forces veterans, members of the Canadian Special Operations Regiment for those engagements, so that modern-day veterans are presented as well as traditional veterans. Over the years, he has also donated generously to the FSSF museums in Petawawa and Fort Bragg. Congratulations, Mr. Callowhill. Congratulations, Mr. Callowhill. Next, we have Miss Rose Caruso from Newmarket. Professor Rose Caruso is an educator who has shown her dedication to Canadian veterans at the concept of remembrance through 3 main ideas: organizing classroom visits for veterans, creating instructional materials and lessons plans for teachers, and building a cenotaph at Seneca College. Beginning in 1999, Professor Caruso partnered with the Dominion Institute Memory Project to bring Canada's military history alive for new Canadian students attending Kenton Language Instruction for Newcomers to Canada School. Professor Caruso also worked as part of the Memory Project Steering Committee with teachers across the province of Ontario to create lessons plans and instructional material for schools. The booklets created by this committee have been a cornerstone of many Memory Project remembrance programs. In 2002, upon joining the staff of Seneca College, she realized that there was no cenotaph in honor to honor the college's veterans. She has worked with the goal of having the cenotaph erected, and it was presented on Remembrance Day 2014 after an incredible amount of work spanning over 10 years. Congratulations, Professor Caruso. Next, we have Gregory Thomas Childs from London. Mr. Gregory Thomas Childs is a retired member of the Canadian Armed Forces. Since his retirement, he has remained in contact with the Essex and Kent Scottish Regiment. Some of his many contributions to veterans include helping veterans submit application forms and pension requests. With the assistance of the commanding officer of the regiment, Mr. Childs developed regimental certificates of appreciation for regimental Second World War veterans and organized the presentation of the certificates across Ontario on their birthdays. Mr. Childs also works with Quilts of Valor Canada and has presented 25 quilts to Second World War veterans, Korean War veterans, and Afghanistan veterans in Manitoba and across Canada. Since 2000, he has organized the annual Field of Valor Dinner for the Essex and Kent Scottish and invited the Southwest Ontario community to honor Second World War and Korean War veterans. Our next recipient is Ms. Faith Idyll Dickinson from Lakefield. Ms. Dickinson is a young woman who has changed the life of many veterans through her kindness and commitment to helping others. At the age of 9, Ms. Dickinson created Cuddles for Cancer with the objective of producing and delivering fleece blankets for persons undergoing cancer treatment. With the assistance of her family, neighbors, and friends, she has also created approximately 2,500 blankets and has sent them to cancer patients all over Canada and around the world. Upon learning that there were many Canadian Armed Forces veterans in her area who also needed comfort, Ms. Dickinson expanded the scope of her organization to include soldier blankets. Soliciting support from local communities, she had prepared special maple leaf blankets for veterans and has now delivered hundreds of soldiers' blankets to infirmed veterans in Canada and has even sent them to Afghanistan and Kuwait. Our next recipient from Mount Hope is Mr. Robert Fyfe. Mr. Robert Fyfe is a former member of the Royal Canadian Navy and is a retired firefighter for 31 years with the Hamilton Fire Department. Mr. Fyfe stayed very involved within his community after his retirement. In retirement, he has been a member of numerous groups, including the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry Veterans Association Band, the Toronto Signals Trumpet Band, and has personally performed the last post at numerous ceremonies in Hamilton and on 2 occasions on the beaches of Dieppe in France in 1992 and 1997. He's a long-standing member and past president of the United Council of Veterans in Hamilton and is presently serving as the chairperson of the City of Hamilton Veterans Committee. Congratulations, Mr. Fyfe. From Sudbury, our next recipient is Mr. Kevin McCormick. Dr. Kevin McCormick is the founder of the national initiative called Project Honour and Preserve. Dr. McCormick is the honorary lieutenant colonel of the Irish Regiment of Canada. Initiated and personally funded the project in order to raise awareness of the sacrifices and contributions made by Canadian veterans throughout our nation's history. Privately and confidentially, Dr. McCormick has repatriated countless items belonging to veterans and their respective families. Behind the scenes, he has located families and ensured, at no cost to them, that their family members' medals were professionally preserved and returned for future generations to honor. Dr. McCormick has personally made considerable donations to support public awareness and educational initiatives across the country, including a national scholarship to study Canadian military history. Congratulations, Dr. McCormick. From Thornhill, Mr. Boris Gurevich is our next recipient. Mr. Boris Gurevich is a survivor of the siege of Leningrad and a participant in the defense of Leningrad during the Second World War. He currently serves as the Vice President of the Canadian Association of World War II Veterans from the Soviet Union, an organization he joined in 2006. Since joining the association, Mr. Gurevich has helped Second World War veterans in numerous ways, including writing letters on behalf of veterans to negotiate housing with municipal authorities, as well as nursing home administrators in support of subsidized rooms for veterans. Mr. Gurevich also visits sick members of the organization in hospitals, nursing homes, and at home. Mr. Gurevich has also assisted the association with many commemorative ceremonies and celebrations, including Victory Day in Europe, celebrations of the lifting of the siege of Leningrad, the Holocaust commemorations, and other historical events. Congratulations, Mr. Gurevich. Our next recipient from Oakville, Mr. Kenneth Lloyd. Mr. Kenneth Lloyd is a veteran of the British and Canadian Armed Forces. He is the president of the Hamilton Signals Association, and over the past 5 years, under his leadership, the association has developed into a caring, nurturing, and supporting organization for veterans, young and old, and the youth. Mr. Lloyd's service with the Canadian Armed Forces includes 3 years in charge of a dispute resolution center. The knowledge he gained in this position has helped him establish expert contacts for the association, who are able to advise older and current veterans, medically released members, and families of veterans in their queries and difficulties with transitioning out of military family. Congratulations, Mr. Lloyd. Yes. From Windsor, Ontario, Mr. David Gregory William Parent. Mr. David Parent is a veteran of the Korean War. He's a life member of the War Pensioners of Canada and the Royal Canadian Naval Association, and has spent many years as the liaison officer for the Windsor Sea Cadet Corps. With the WPC Rose City branch, Mr. Parent has been an active participant and has volunteered to work at several jamborees to raise money for veterans at Parkwood Hospital. He has also been involved with many other fundraisers. Mr. Parent is also a driving force behind the erection of the Korean Veterans War Monument in Windsor, Ontario. Mr. Parent is also a member of the Windsor Veterans Memorial Service Committee. This committee provides a dignified memorial service for deceased veterans, and members of its committee attend funerals to provide comfort to family members. Congratulations, Mr. Parent. Following recipient is Mr. Frederick Smith from Milton, Ontario. Corporal retired Frederick Smith is a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces with the 1st Battalion Royal Canadian Regiment. Corporal Smith left the Army in 1981 following a traumatic posting to the Golan Heights, where Canadian troops monitored a ceasefire between Israel and Syria under the UN banner. His downslide into difficulty started at the moment he started relying on exterior stimuli to cope with everyday life and fear, problems that were linked, who would later be linked to diagnosed of post-traumatic stress disorder. After years of homelessness and having struggled through the suicide of his son, Corporal Smith admitted himself into hospital to receive care. Since 2007, with more stability in his life, Corporal Smith set out to help veterans find assistance with their own struggle and founded an organization called Veterans Helping Veterans. Congratulations, Mr. Smith. From Brampton, our next recipient, Ms. Judith Ann Stinson. Ms. Stinson has been a member of the Royal Canadian Legion and Ladies Auxiliary for 44 years. She has served on the executive of the Ladies Auxiliary and in almost every position of leadership, including president at both local and provincial levels. She has also served as zone commander for 10 years. Ms. Stinson has worked diligently on poppy campaigns, liaised with Army Cadet Corps and the Legion, and has been a member of the Colour Party. Ms. Stinson is also a member of the Royal Canadian Legion Outreach and Visitation Initiative, where she visits veterans living in long-term care facilities and submits a summary of her visits to Dominion Command and Veterans Affairs Canada. Being a member of a family with a long and proud history in military service, Ms. Stinson believes wholeheartedly in honoring, respecting, and remembering those who have served our country. Congratulations, Ms. Stinson. And our final recipient today is Mr. James Wellheiser. Mr. James Wellheiser served in the Canadian Armed Forces for many years and remains very active within veterans' causes. As an active member of the Royal Canadian Legion during the lead-up to Remembrance Day and Veterans Week, Mr. Wellheiser is involved with the Poppy Fund. He also takes time to deliver many presentations up to 8 schools, speaking about his experience as a soldier and the role of the Canadian military throughout history. Mr. Wellheiser has held many positions within the Canadian Airborne Forces Association, including president. He has also been active with cadets for 10 years and carries a flag with the Colour Party on Remembrance Day. Mr. Wellheiser has also been involved with the dedication of the First World War Museum in the town of Nervesa, Italy, to highlight the 116th Battalion in which his uncle served. He collected uniforms, gear, and memorabilia and delivered them to the museum, all on his own expenses. The exhibit is dedicated to Mr. Wellheiser's uncle and is the only Canadian exhibit in the museum. For the past 2 years, Mr. Wellheiser has been a counselor for both veterans and first responders suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Congratulations, Mr. Wellheiser.